I want to begin this press conference by reporting on a highly successful visit with the OECS Monetary Council, which we made to Toronto, Canada, to meet with senior executives of the Canadian banks resident and participating in the OECS financial space. The delegation of the Monetary Council was comprised by Prime Minister of St. Lucia, the Honorable Alan Chastanet, the Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Mr. Timothy Antoine, and me. We met with representatives of the Bank of Nova Scotia, Royal Bank of Canada, and the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, IBC. These three banks are important entities in our sub-regional financial space. They bring to the OECS a mix of international banks of high repute and strong credibility. The Canadian banks emerged from the global financial crisis with the strongest balance sheets. Their presence then in our region brings confidence in our financial space and the service of strong correspondent banks to our region. The public may recall that attempts at de-risking and withdrawal of correspondent banking relations were among the matters that consume much time and attention at the level of the Monetary Council. It was determined that all matters raised were the subjects for ongoing discussions, and these will be put to technical teams from both sides to pursue and establish protocols for resolution of the issues. The meetings represent a productive and very auspicious start to constructive engagement with the foreign banking sector. Prime Minister Alan Chastanet and I held discussions with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada. The issues here were broader than those discussed with the Canadian banks, although those subjects were addressed, and we urged Prime Minister Trudeau to use his good office to assist us. Our delegation explored the role of Canada in the region and how we can forge a mutually beneficial relationship. It should come as no surprise that Canada's leadership of the upcoming G7 meeting, its role in the Commonwealth, and how it can become the voice of advocacy and support for small island developing states were among the wide-ranging issues discussed with Prime Minister Trudeau. I want to turn now to a word on our independence celebrations. In my last address to the nation, I indicated that independence was too critical an event in our post-colonial journey to become masters of our destiny and development, to pass without commemoration and celebration. Accordingly, I remind all that this Saturday, October 7th, shall be a public holiday. We will have the Independence Parade at 8 a.m. at Warner Park Cricket Stadium, followed by the toast to the nation at Defence Force Camp. And the Independence Reception will be graciously hosted by Sir S.W. Tapley Seaton, our esteemed Governor General, at 7 p.m. at Government House. All are invited to these national events. Turning to the post-hurricanes update. Climate change clearly constitutes both a formidable challenge and an escalating threat to our development. Recent hurricanes remind us that in real terms, we are on our own. There is no Mother Britain or any other country with which we are in association that binds us and obligates that other country to help us. We are not like the British Virgin Islands and Anguilla in a special relationship with the United Kingdom. We do not have a special association with the USA like Puerto Rico or the US Virgin Islands. Even in such cases, the post-hurricane support to date to these territories has not come quickly enough, nor on the scale required to bring the soonest restoration of normalcy to those ravaged islands. For St. Kitts and Nevis, therefore, we must look, and always must look, to our own skills, ingenuity, and industry to ameliorate ourselves. And we must save resources for the rainy day of adversity, which eventually comes to all nations and indeed people. I am heartened that we have been managing well. Moreover, of all countries in Latin America and the Caribbean, St. Kitts and Nevis has been excellent in its generosity to our neighbors. We have offered monetary and in-kind contributions to Dominica, the BVI, Antigua and Barbuda, Anguilla, and St. Martin. And we thank God that we could do so. We will always be reminded that had it not been for the grace of God, it could have been us. And I am happy to report that on that score, the Accountant General has deposited the funds earmarked for Dominica, Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, and the BVI with the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, where each of these governments holds an account. Arrangements are being finalized with respect to the French and Dutch St. Martin. In response to Dominica's security challenges, and although we were also damaged and have been facing significant gun-related homicides over the years, we, being our brother's keeper, offered logistical and other support to Dominica with a contingent of police officers. While the Team Unity administration has been very helpful to our neighbors in the region, our citizens and residents should also be commended for their thoughtfulness and generosity. And so I commend all citizens and residents of goodwill. Our Controller of Customs had advised me that as at September 27, post-Hurricanes Irma and Maria, relief support from St. Kitts and Nevis has left our seaport in a total of 44 shipments, broken down as follows: 17 ships left for Anguilla, 8 for Sabre, 9 for St. Martin, 1 for St. Bart's, 2 for St. Thomas, 7 for Tortola. The principal cargo included food, water, juice, clothing, and toiletries. The shipment to St. Bart's include food, water, and beer, interestingly. Over the period 8 to the 27th September, 295 passengers enter our country by sea from hurricane-impacted countries. The largest number was 81, and they were holders of passports issued by the government of the United States of America. 49 of them were our nationals returning home. 43 held French passport, government of France. 26 from the Netherlands. 15 passport issued from India, and 8 were from Guyana. In my address to the country, I had made mention that we wanted to incentivize and reward those essential service workers who went beyond the call of duty and risked their lives in particular during and after the hurricane. I could now announce that the Ministry of Finance will be ready to make payment to our essential service workers during the months of October and certainly by end of November. We urge all relevant departments to get the information to the Financial Secretary or the Deputy Financial Secretary, Mr. Calvin Edwards, for processing of those payments. The matter of duty-free concessions. Regarding the duty-free concessions on building materials for the victims of the hurricanes, the Ministry of Finance has reported that over 300 applications have been collected, and the Ministry of Finance is awaiting their return for formal processing. Contact persons have been identified at the Inland Revenue Department the Accountant General Department, Customs and Excise Department, NEMA, and the Office of the Prime Minister to assist in completing these forms should assistance be required by anyone. So you have the form you're having difficulty in filling in. We have set up, if you will, help desks, identified persons in each of the relevant departments who will provide assistance with getting the form filled in. My government has given priority to restore our people's life to normalcy. And in this regard, the Ministry of Finance, working with the Ministry of Sustainable Development, will recruit persons on a temporary basis to help with the estimates of the repairs to correct the damage should such assistance be required. In other words, we want to put that on a fast track. And there may be elderly persons or persons otherwise unable to look after, take care of the estimates. And we therefore will have private parties who will be engaged by the relevant ministry to conduct this exercise with a view to fast tracking it. That estimate, of course, will go through a verification process by another group of government employees before the final signing off. I want now to turn to the matter of the Hurricane Relief Fund. St. Kitts and Nevis has suffered significant damages evaluated by the competent authorities nearing $150 million. Hundreds of homes still carry the tarpaulins. Farmers' feeder roads are still impassable in some areas. Our fisheries sector, particularly at Deep Bay and Old Road, received some significant structural damages. So too did the education sector, as did sports, national security. These are all unbudgeted expenditure for which we must find resources to satisfy them. Relying on our own ingenuity and industry, the Cabinet accepted a proposal from Les Can, the CEO of our Citizenship by Investment Unit, to introduce a Hurricane Relief Fund as a third new offering under our Citizenship by Investment program at a price pegged at $150,000 US. This offer is for a limited time, a limited short time frame of 6 months. This price point is 50% higher. I repeat, 50% higher than the $100,000 set by Dominica and St. Lucia for their donation option. That recommendation, which came after the first hurricane struck us, was delayed until we had the second battering by Maria on September 19th and 20th, in which the damages sustained were even more severe and in fact more significantly higher on the island of Nevis than was reported after Irma. Cabinet then, on September 22nd or thereabout, unanimously approved the recommendation. To repeat what is the situation now, St. Kitts and Nevis now has three products offered under its CBI program. A real estate option priced at $400,000 US, no change, no reduction. An SIDF option priced at US $250,000, no change, no reduction. A hurricane relief fund at US $150,000, which is a new, unique product not offered by any other country. A new, unique product not offered by any other country. Three products will compete in the marketplace, carrying the St. Kitts and Nevis brand. Rumors about reduction and price undercutting is purely opposition manufactured mischief. Rumors about reduction and price undercutting is purely opposition manufactured mischief. Because the facts are there. There has been no alteration on any of the products that were introduced by our CI unit when we engage with the Hurricane Relief Fund. None of them has been withdrawn. So the two that were there before are also in the marketplace at the same price. And we have added a new product not offered by any other country. The hysteria by the leader of the opposition about undermining Dominica's recovery is not rooted in truth nor altruism. Dominica has its own product offerings, which it has always priced below ours. Its donation option, for example, has been, for some period of time, pegged at 100,000. Our hurricane relief is 50% higher at 150,000. All three of our CBI options coexist, and they have their own market appeal. Let us be pellucidly clear that the Hurricane Relief Fund is a limited time offer of a mere 6 months duration. It is the only such product promoted by the Citizenship Program in the region. It represents, in our view, a proactive response of our cabinet to the extraordinary circumstances of our country being visited by the rare occurrences of not one but two Category 5 hurricanes that have left us with public sector damages on the island of St. Kitts and Nevis that are accumulating to 150 million. My cabinet's responsibility is to first and foremost look after the interests of the people of our federation, and we are and will always be fulfilling this most sacred responsibility. The Hurricane Relief Fund is now fully operational with the proper constitutional and legal framework, and we will never have it otherwise. Always we will act within the ambit of the law and restrict our actions within the confines of what is permissible and available in the four walls of the Constitution. Our Hurricane Relief Fund is ready for legitimate business. There will be no relaxation in our due diligence program with respect to this new third unique offering. Should the fund be successful, we have already said that we are prepared again to provide additional monetary support to our neighbors. St. Kitts and Nevis, in my view, is a country blessed with a government committed to leaving no stone unturned to improve the quality of life of our people. We pioneered this program way back in 1984. Every other country that joined the market took the sovereign decision to enter at price points lower than ours. And that is their sovereign right to do. We never condemned anyone for doing what they considered necessary for their country or for seeking to consolidate their position in the market. Truth is, we have always accepted, so as every other country, that there is no OPEC-type arrangement, for example, among countries providing citizenship as an incentive to attract foreign investment, job creation, etc., that binds us to a common price, or even to consultation over pricing. To be clear, St. Kitts and Nevis beckons a future of greater harmonizing and commonality across the CBI programs. We held the first OECS conference to work towards this goal as far back as 2015. as one of the first outreach of our government to reposition, restructure, reorganize a CBI program that we inherited that had lost the trust of the international community. And we said, let us do it together. We went further and promoted that at every other regional event in relation to the CIPs. I went to Dominica and I engaged the press in relation to that matter. What did the hypocrites who now criticize us say then? Well, the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis making joke. This is a highly competitive business. Nobody is going to take him on. Everybody will do what they can with their program because this is business. That was their view then. The hypocrisy is clear. We have always been in the forefront, and it is no accident that even as I speak now, the person who chairs the sub-regional grouping of heads of Citizenship by Investment Program is our own CEO, Les Khan. We have always been in the lead. We have always promoted a clear path in relation to harmonization and developing jointly some structures with relation to the CBI programs. So it's nothing new. We have not always had the ready acceptance because working together takes time. That is how it is. The odd man in all this unnecessary hysteria about our third option is the leader of the opposition in St. Kitts. The strange behavior of denigrating St. Kitts and Nevis, a country over which he governed for nigh 20 years, led many reasonable persons to question where does Dr. Douglas' loyalty lies. And they have answered for themselves without prompting, clearly not with his native land of St. Kitts and Nevis. Certain information was recently drawn to my attention, which I feel obliged in the public interest to share with the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. I make these comments with respect to the information. 1, Dr. Denzil Douglas is a citizen of another country other than St. Kitts and Nevis. Dr. Denzil Douglas is a citizen of another country other than St. Kitts and Nevis. Dr. Denzil Douglas promotes the CIP of another country and undermines that of St. Kitts and Nevis. Thirdly, Dr. Denzil Douglas strangely holds a diplomatic passport of another country. And I challenge Dr. Denzil Douglas now to confirm the truth or otherwise of the foregoing information to which I have been made privy to and I have shared in the public interest. It is important to note that with respect to this matter of citizenship, that the same Dr. Denzil Douglas has in the past showed disdain for holders of dual citizenship. His vendetta against Lindsey Grant, against Sean Richards, and Eugene Hamilton are all well known. So serious was this matter of dual citizenship for persons participating in the parliamentary life of the country that Dr. Denzil Douglas passed the National Assembly's Election Amendment Act, number 16 of 2009. You understand that? It wasn't just simply a matter of policy. It was something that he felt so deeply moved about that he was moved to bring a piece of legislation. And I supported the legislation for what it was worth, as a matter of principle, that those who are coming before the people of the country for service must come unencumbered. To the extent that that principle was eliminated in the parliament, I think it had national support. So the man felt very strongly about it. So he passed this act, and the act was intended specifically to prevent persons of dual citizenship from offering themselves to the electorate. For him, 8 years later, to become entangled with dual citizenship begs the question, is there no moral minimum? Is there no moral minimum for him? The possession of a passport by the leader of the opposition, other than a St. Kitts and Nevis passport, in my view, raises significant questions of a civic, political, and constitutional nature. And I posit the following for consideration. In my humble view, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis have a constitutional right to be represented only by the people who owe and who appear to owe their undivided loyalty and allegiance to the Federation. I want to repeat it. This is not just for any other citizen who happens to be. This condition that I am laying out, this proposition that I am positing, is saying that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis have a constitutional right to be represented only by people who owe and who appear to owe their undivided loyalty and allegiance to the Federation. For the Bible can't be wrong. You can't serve two masters. You will love one more and hate the other, or some words to that effect. That is what it says. Therefore, if you want to serve at that level, there are certain constraints that will come normally upon you. And it happens in every other parliamentary system, Westminster or presidential. The second point I wish to raise in relation to this, and remember in part that not only did we have this, the Honorable Jean Hamilton was taken to court, spent, I am sure, significant sums, maybe he still owes significant sums, to defend himself against a legal action brought against him by the Douglas administration. And what was his case? It was alleged that he was a citizen of another country. It so turned out that he was not, but he liked to travel there. And so that assumption was made. And for that, he was drawn before the court. And we can't, in analyzing the way forward for governance in the country, forget the history of these developments and therefore their significance in relation to what we have to deal now. Second point, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis are entitled to a robust parliament with all members free to represent their constituencies in the best interests of the Federation, free from external constraint and allegiances. Third point, the government has a responsibility to investigate all circumstances surrounding the issuance of a foreign diplomatic passport to a member of the National Assembly. You must do that in the context of this, This was a special act, move to protect, on the face of it, the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis from a man or woman who may be playing two tunes. That you must make up your mind. And that is why we know that public service comes with a burden. If you want to provide public service, there is an onerous responsibility imposed upon you that you wouldn't get if you were, for example, in the private sector. Our distinguished colleague Richard Keynes knows that. He has been in public life. I am sure sometime he would have wondered what did I give up my rental business to come to work for less? Make that sacrifice. But it's part of a civic calling which some of us will undertake. Not everyone. Some persons tell you up front, the politics is not for me, because with it comes certain other obligations to be fulfilled. A former Deputy Prime Minister is here. All of us on this side know what the burden of public office now holds out for us. And so we are saying that this matter then bears investigation. And the investigation should consider whether holding the diplomatic passport undermines the federal interests of St. Kitts and Nevis. Mark you, this is a member of parliament. This is a man holding himself out as the alternative leader of the country. This is not Tom Joe out in the street, in the alleyways. We have no contention with the Toms and the Janes holding their dual citizenship. But when you are elected to the legislature, consistent with this, consistent with our Constitution, we must expect a better standard of behavior. So we have to consider whether that act undermines the federal interests of St. Kitts and Nevis, and whether it undermines the capacity of St. Kitts and Nevis to do work as part of the OECS, as part of the OAS, as part of CARICOM. Because in some of these Commonwealth, name any regional body, you would hear that you will have government representative and opposition representatives. Well, when a man holds the diplomatic passport of another country, when he goes into those meetings, whose interests is being put forward? Is it the one who gives him the diplomatic passport, or is it his native land? It is a serious practical and constitutional difficulty that we have to deal with. My government, therefore, will conduct an investigation in this matter, and we certainly will report back to the people as soon as we have more information. For this is a major development, not created by Team Unity, not created by any citizens. And how could you justify that the very man that led the charge against non-participation in the elections could now be found himself anywhere near that kind of deal? I want to read just a small part for you to get the magnitude. This wasn't something we met. This was something created to deal with certain people. It come now full circle. The very man who created it, who inspired the nation to this calling, this very man now has a case to answer in relation to it. He says a candidate for nomination for election, before being nominated, must take an oath to the effect that he or she does not hold a dual citizenship. That is to say, that he or she is not by virtue of his or her own act under any acknowledgement of allegiance, obedience, or adherence to a foreign power or state. And if he or she held dual citizenship, produce proof that he or she renounced the other citizenship. That is what led to the hasty departure, some said, of the Honorable Sean Richards and Mr. Lindsey Grant to Barbados, trying to make the deadline. Because the Douglas Act, if you will, of 2009 says that you must show proof before you could even put your name down on the paper that you have renounced that second citizenship. And you must take an oath to that regard. It went on to impose measures for the returning officer who must administer the oath. It went so far to introduce as an offense, because when you go to nomination by our laws, you have to take two persons. And this new law says that these two persons who come better make sure that the person they are bringing forward doesn't have no dual citizenship. Impose that burden on every functionary, including the common man. And this, to me, is a significant development. And we have to, as a nation, determine how we are going to move in relation to this matter. On another note of law and order, I want to commend our security agencies for the period of calm in our country. Our country breathes a sigh of relief that no homicide has occurred since about July, is it? July. Our country deserves this reprieve from homicides, in my view, all year long. Not sometimes, all of the times. And I therefore want to urge our law enforcement officers to press on and continue doing good on behalf of our people and our nation. To date, January to September, the homicides reported, number 18. For the similar interval last year, we were at 24, according to the Commissioner of Police. This represents a 25% reduction. Significant. We're still not where we would like to be, but we are trending in the right direction. And for that, we are thankful that the trend is in the right direction. Our security officers continue to make our streets and society safer by an aggressive outreach to take illegal weapons off the streets. Last night, I am advised that intelligence-driven policing led to the recovery of another firearm, bringing to 40 the number that they have taken off the streets to date. This already exceeds the number that they had recovered for all of 2016. Important point behind this is that every firearm recovered is one less available to do harm, to maim, to injure, or to kill any of our citizens or residents. So I want to commend the Commissioner, to commend the Lieutenant Colonel, to commend all the other agencies that are involved in crime fighting and law enforcement for the positive and important improved direction in which we are seeing with respect to serious crimes in our country.